The eagle is not the king of the sky. It is a hunter that has learned how not to fall. Humans turned it into a symbol of freedom, but real freedom here carries the constant risk of impact. The sky is not a throne. It is a shifting battlefield where wind decides the rules. Legends portray it as unstoppable, yet every dive is a negotiation with gravity. Being higher does not mean being stronger. It only means mistakes become more expensive. Observers see speed, but the eagle survives by waiting longer than its prey expects. Most of the time it does not fly. It listens to the air and sharpens patience. The hunting moment looks explosive, but it is built on long silence. Behind every successful strike are countless failed attempts hidden by distance. The eagle's story is not victory, it is balance maintained under pressure. Silence is not a display of dominance, it is a tactic to remain unseen. People call it lonely, but solitude here is simply survival. There are no alliances in the sky, only distance and awareness. Every ascent hides the possibility of a fall. That is why the eagle is not a legend. It is a reality built on risk. And the sky belongs to no one. It only allows passage to those who stay aware. Humans crowned the eagle before they ever measured its survival rate. Height looked like dominance, so we called it power. But altitude is exposure, and exposure is where most mistakes become fatal. This is the part the symbol never shows. In the wild, most hunts fail, and every failed strike costs energy. Energy lost means more time in open air. More time in the open means more risk. And this is where the myth starts to crack. Young eagles do not inherit a throne. Many never survive their first winter. There is no ceremony in the sky. There is only adaptation. We called it king because it flies alone. But solitude here is not glory. It is necessity. The sky does not reward defiance. It rewards precision. It favors the accurate. Misjudge the air by a fraction and the margin disappears. There are no titles in the sky. Only those who read it correctly remain in it. An eagle rises not because it loves the sky, but because staying low costs more than staying high. Every wing beat reduces the reserve, and when the reserve runs out, altitude runs out with it. That is why it searches for rising air, invisible lift that carries weight without expense. We see elegance in the glide. It feels relief in the lift. Miss the current, and gravity collects immediately. Every meter gained with muscle is taken from the next hunt. When the dive begins, altitude turns into speed, and speed cannot be recalled. The violence of that descent is not display. It is stored energy being released. At that velocity, a minor miscalculation is not dramatic. It is permanent. If the strike fails, altitude is lost, and rebuilding it is costly. Stillness is not peace. It is the weighing of the next expense. It can remain unmoving for hours, because a wrong launch costs more than a delayed one. People focus on the glide, but the real tension lives inside that unbroken silence. When movement finally begins, there is no reversal. It appears alone at altitude, but that isolation is not a title. At that height there is no margin for error, and no one remains beside those who miscalculate. The sky does not keep kings. It keeps those who do not misread it. There is a moment when waiting ends, and commitment begins. It does not hesitate at the edge, because hesitation has already been calculated. When it drops, the air hardens. Altitude collapses into velocity, and the margin narrows instantly. This is not aggression. It is conversion. This is not instinct. It is commitment. This is not rage. It is release. This is not dominance. It is margin under pressure. At this velocity, the body becomes a projectile, but the mind remains active. Wind resistance increases, and tiny feather adjustments determine survival. The target does not freeze. It reacts. And now both are moving inside shrinking space. Distance collapses faster than fear. There is no time for correction beyond a fraction. The ground rises faster than instinct. Impact is not guaranteed, but risk is. If the strike lands, energy returns. If it misses, altitude disappears. But even a successful strike has cost. Momentum must be reversed. Muscles absorb shock that bones cannot. And every dive leaves a trace of fatigue, even when unseen. There is no applause in the valley, only outcome. And once the wings open again, the cost of that decision is already written. The strike fails, and the sky continues to flow as if nothing happened. There is no dramatic fall, only the eagle's line in the air drops slightly lower. Altitude is not scenery, it is advantage, and once advantage is spent, it must be regained, because the sky lends nothing to anyone. But thermals are not guaranteed, and not every ascent comes free. If lift is absent, the wings take over, and flapping is no longer glide. When the wings take over, energy declines, and each beat produces an invisible cost. Energy does not end at once. It thins gradually and narrows the margin unnoticed. And thinning energy changes the decision before it changes the muscles. The dive that was possible moments ago is no longer rational because the conditions are no longer the same. Low altitude means less margin for error, and when margin shrinks, courage is not an advantage. As it moves closer to the ground, speed becomes harder to control. As speed decreases, surprises grow and the ground approaches faster. As surprise increases, risk stops being abstract and becomes physical. The experienced eagle senses this and withdraws before being forced. It rises to rebuild altitude and waits without wasting time. But the younger one does not wait. It believes trying again is movement. The second attempt begins lower, from a tighter angle with less margin. This dive is not braver. It is more exposed because the correction space has shrunk. Proximity to the ground does not forgive. Hesitation is costly here. Stone is hard, and as distance shrinks, hardness becomes decisive. Wind shifts direction suddenly, and reaction time shortens at low altitude. A small angle error can therefore turn into a major collision. It is not always death, but it leaves a mark on the body and rhythm. Fatigue accumulates and does not announce itself. Muscles work heavier, and the same climb demands more force. Glides shorten because altitude is no longer a secure reserve. Short glides produce more wing beats, and wing beats now carry load rather than speed. More wing beats mean more expenditure, and expenditure is not reimbursed. One failure is not a problem, but repeated failure becomes an invisible chain. The sky does not shout. It quietly narrows space. It reduces altitude and forces the eagle to operate in weaker air layers. It reduces options and limits which moment can be pursued. It reduces opportunities and not every visible movement becomes reachable. When options narrow, risk grows, and growing risk makes error expensive. This is the cost of missing, not the loss of a moment, but the slow erosion of advantage. And this erosion moves quietly, even while the eagle is still flying. Advantage rebuilt does not mean advantage secured. Height can return, but the air may not be the same. The sky shifts without announcing it. Lift weakens where it was strong. Wind hardens where it was gentle. Visibility narrows even in open space. And when visibility narrows, certainty does too. Below, movement continues whether it is seen or not. Above, another silhouette may already be watching. Air is shared even when unspoken, and shared air compresses options. Position becomes fragile again. Altitude alone does not guarantee control. Control depends on reading what changes. The sky is not conquered once. It is interpreted constantly. And those who fail to adjust do not fall immediately. They simply operate from thinner margins. Thin margins do not survive unchanged when the season turns. Winter does not attack, it reduces. Thermals weaken as the ground loses heat. Cold air grows heavier and climbs slower. Snow reshapes the ground and hides movement. Visibility widens in some ways and shrinks in others. Energy spent in summer could be replaced tomorrow. Energy spent in winter may not return for days. Hunger does not roar. It recalculates behavior. Flight paths shorten. Search patterns tighten. Dives become rarer, not weaker, but fewer. Every decision carries more weight when replacement is uncertain. Cold stiffens feathers and slows reaction. Wind cuts sharper across exposed ridges, and patience becomes survival rather than strategy. Not every winter kills, but every winter reveals weakness. Those who miscalculated in autumn feel it now. Because in winter, margin is not theory. It is temperature. It is distance between meals. It is how long altitude can be maintained before hunger bends it downward. And winter does not end because the bird is ready. It ends when the sun returns enough heat to lift the air again. The eagle is not a king. It does not rule the sky. It survives inside it. Altitude is not a throne. It is a temporary advantage. Wings are not symbols of power. They are tools of calculation. Every climb is a decision. Every dive is a wager. Every miss is a subtraction. And every winter is an audit. The sky does not admire. It does not forgive. It does not crown. It rewards precision. It rewards restraint. It rewards those who read it correctly. The myth calls it ruler. Nature calls it accountable. Because nothing in the sky belongs to the one who claims it. It belongs to the one who understands it. Today and tomorrow, that understanding must be rebuilt.